Who doesn't like a cute video of a couple of kangaroos fighting in the wilderness? And this is possible, and all that goes with it, as in protection of wilderness life and so on, thanks to these smart cameras that are deployed in the wild. And this video feed is coming from a camera that is over 1 kilometer away from the first access point. This is not meshing, this is not going over satellite or going over cellular. There's no cellular connectivity there. It's not going over LoRaWAN, but it's still going beyond the kilometer with that video stream with high bandwidth. And this is thanks to a new flavor of Wi-Fi called Wi-Fi HaLow. Morse Micro is a company based where these kangaroos live, and that has been a pioneer in developing and contributing Wi-Fi HaLow to the Wi-Fi Alliance. We'll talk about all of that with Andy McFarlane from Morse Micro, and he will tell us how this is relevant for you in the embedded space, and how you can now connect your devices over long distance, sending huge amount of data. If you like this episode of the IoT Show, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, tell us how we're doing, share with your friends, and so forth. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is the IoT Show. I'm Olivier, your host. Today we have Andy to talk about HaLow. No, not the video game, Wi-Fi HaLow, right? I'm ex-Microsoft, so when I first heard about HaLow, I was like, it's a new version of the video game. And no, it is not. But you'll tell us about Wi-Fi HaLow, Andy. But first, tell us about yourself. Who are you?
Oh, hey, Olivier, and hey, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you for today's session. A little bit about me. So I'm living over here in Sydney, Australia, which is a fascinating place in the world to be based as a fabulous semiconductor company. More about that in a moment. But I was born in the UK. Career-wise, my career is largely enterprise solution zone. So I did about 18 years with IBM in the UK and the US, moved across from blue to red, joined Vodafone, headed up their first ever global B2B marketing team, UK and the Middle East. Then about 10 years or so ago, I got the opportunity to move across to Australia. And I joined up with Telstra, the largest domestic telco here in Australia. So 3 big corporate stints had me have a lot of fun, but in the corporate world. And then just around about a year or so ago, I was given the opportunity to join let's say startup scale up, Morse Micro. Very different scale of business, but with a really exciting vision. So that's where I am. That's a little bit of my background. If I add a bit of colour in there, wife and 3 children, can't call them children anymore. They're all at university. And we've had a lot of
Still kids, you know.
Still children. We've had a lot of fun traveling the world, having fun adventures and working as hard as I can.
Awesome. That gives us a very nice picture of what we're talking to here. Morse Micro is that little company that is not that micro, actually. It's pretty present, especially in the world of Wi-Fi. But before we jump into that, what is this name, Morse Micro? Is it about like sending Morse? Like even tinier than Morse?
So yeah, the Morse Micro name is as clear as it links to Morse code, and we make microchips. So whether that was a lot of beer or a small amount of beer that Michael and Andy were involved in when they came up with the brand name, I've never actually heard the detail of the story. But Michael and Andy are our founders, and that's why we are the name Morse Micro.
Got it. So at least you never heard about a verifiable story about it, I guess, right? There must be several ones.
That may creep out.
Anyways, we are here to talk about a specification for Wi-Fi that allows it to go further away, right? Longer range for our beloved Wi-Fi. Why do we need to have longer range for Wi-Fi? What's the problem that Morse Micro and the industry at large is trying to fix or address?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi is a category, really intrigues me, because it's been around for about 25 years, and Wi-Fi generally means good things. It generally gives positive emotion. It generally means I can sit in my cafe and I get free access to do stuff. Wi-Fi is a good thing. The generally recognized pain point of Wi-Fi is distance. So, your Wi-Fi works pretty well in your house. There might be a room where it doesn't work too well. You go into the back garden or you're going out in the front, and then you shrug and you go, oh, my Wi-Fi has dropped out. Don't worry, I'll make cellular connection happen. But the single largest pain point that we recognize, that our research shows us, in and around the category of Wi-Fi is distance. But the whole of the industry, or the majority of the industry, I should say, has been striving to deliver more speed. So Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, and the narrative that's building around about Wi-Fi 8. It's all about more speed, but the simple physics of the radio frequencies that are used says that none of those approaches will address the notable pain point of distance. Whereas we use the sub-gigahertz radio frequency. So that means that the simple physics says that the radio frequencies can go further, they can penetrate walls better, so they can reach places that traditional Wi-Fi signals can't reach, put really simply. But that doesn't really, that talks to the category. The pain point is that generally, people, businesses, Wi-Fi infrastructure is either big and costly and difficult and expensive to reach all parts of the environment that you want, or there's just black spots, there's just dark spots. There have been alternatives to a Wi-Fi standard. Other sub-gigahertz approaches, the likes of LoRaWAN and Wi-Sun and others, have done a really, really outstanding job. We'll talk about narrowband IoT as well, that the cellular providers have put out. They've done a great job over the last 10, 15 years building out the thing that we know of as the IoT right now. But the facts are that they deliver very, very small packets of data. So
that's the compromise, right? You're reaching the distance, keeping the quality of the signal. You have to reduce the bandwidth usage in order to deliver that range, right?
Exactly. And look, what that community have done has been phenomenal, because really exciting first generation solutions for agriculture, for industrial IoT, have been able to use that protocol and do brilliant things. But as the computing model moves on, generally, when I talk to solution providers in that world, they're pretty frustrated. They're hitting their head against a glass ceiling and saying, if only I had more data throughput, I could do more for my customers. If I could capture more data, if I could bring an image or a video or get 2 or 3 different data feeds to work together. Imagine if I could get some edge processing into this. We'll talk a little bit more about that in due course. Yeah. So Wi-Fi HaLow offers a higher bandwidth throughput than at longer distance than other categories. So there's a beautiful little zone that Wi-Fi HaLow can be powerful at.
Yeah, is it fair to say that other radios like LoRa and other LP1s, they are actually compromising on that size of bandwidth? We need more bandwidth. We need to send more data, even from IoT devices. We'll talk about IoT 2.0 in a second, but we need to send more data. There's an ask and demand there. So a workaround could be to use what we have today with Wi-Fi, but with repeaters, right? So you can go further away by creating your own mesh Wi-Fi gateways and powering them along the way. Yeah. Another one is cellular, but cellular you depend on the providers because you can't deploy your own cellular network. It's not something that is commonly done. There's satellite as well with good coverage.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep. But expensive. Am I right? Satellite.
The joy of, I've been in and around the IT industry for 30 years, and the joy is that there's no one approach, standard, protocol that ever dominates. The broad range of use cases that the massively interconnected world we live in now and will just continue requires all kinds of different approaches. Standardization and interoperability is important, and we'll come on to talk about that. But absolutely, there are ways that current Wi-Fi technology can be meshed or linked together to deliver more coverage. Beautiful, great workaround. Some weaknesses in that. Each option offers workarounds. So there is a space that we're very, very bullish about for Wi-Fi HaLow as a complementary technology that will really simplify a wide-reaching local area network, because it's a LAN-based approach rather than a wide area WAN-based approach, which simplifies a lot of the network infrastructure. So it's simple and it's cheap to get a Wi-Fi HaLow network up and running. Cellular's phenomenal, but it is the gift that keeps on giving from a cost perspective, because you've got to put some money on the table every month. And if you're looking at a 5-year or a 10-year use case, then that starts to become really challenging, and again limits the kind of the zone by which your business solution can deliver value in terms of return on investment. Satellite's phenomenal, but what we're often finding, particularly in the world of agriculture, which we'll talk about in a moment, we're finding that people are using satellite, be it Starlink, to access their IP signal, but they'll then use Wi-Fi HaLow to take that signal kilometers at higher bandwidth than they could previously. So there's ways in which these things can join together, and we can open up a zone that current network environments, current network infrastructure hasn't been able to open up, which is really exciting for developers and solution providers.
Definitely. And so we put all of that in context of IoT 2.0. That's something that is basically a new set of scenarios in the realm of IoT that require more data, whether for sending firmwares or AI models down to the edge when you're doing updates or changing the features or adapting your IoT infrastructure to their environment, but also uplink, where you want to send more data, a larger amount, whether because there are more sensors or because we're starting to have these cameras that capture a certain number of information, higher frames per second, and you need to not always stream, but have a higher uplink in terms of bandwidth. What kind of, you mentioned agriculture, what kind of scenarios are we talking about here in the realm of IoT 2.0 that require something not available out there that HaLow addresses?
Yeah, so great question. I'll try to cover it in a couple of perspectives, because the IEEE, and we haven't talked about the standard of Wi-Fi HaLow so much, but we'll come on to that. But the IEEE, who are at the kind of the foundation of defining global standards, and the IEEE team wrote a great paper, about 4 years or so ago. It was actually the team at here in Sydney at UTS, University Technology Sydney, where most of the IEEE members were, that wrote that paper. And it was a clear comparison between IoT 1 and IoT 2. And they see the shift from simple, small packets of data to larger packets of data that can deliver more intelligence. It talks about from proprietary ways of managing security to much more advanced cyber security that's required, from single technologies to interoperability and open standards. So a clear shift from, in essence, a first generation way of thinking to a second generation, more advanced, more complex, but more enabling capability, which the industry likes to call edge AI or fog computing. And there's a range of beautiful buzzwords. And I'm pretty clear, we stand very close to the word edge, but we're an enabler of edge computing and edge AI. We're not trying to sit in the middle of that circle, because you need complementary solutions and software to deliver that processing. We move the edge, we deliver IP to an edge which is further away than was previously available. So to your point on solutions, maybe a couple of clean, easy ways of thinking about it. So one is agriculture, is the standard, easy way of thinking about things. I didn't actually make reference to it earlier on. We might want to bring it up at some point in your podcast, but there's a way that I occasionally make reference to our company being based in Australia. And that was through some test work that we did, where we had some pretty simple standard Wi-Fi cameras that were connected via Wi-Fi HaLow to a single access point. And we did that in the outer reaches of South Australia. And across a distance of 1.2 kilometers from camera to access point, we were able to capture images of kangaroos having let's call it a play fight, which is interesting and it makes you smile. But when you actually look under that image and you see what's going on, that's a data throughput of 19.7 megabits per second across a distance of 1.2 kilometers, which is materially different from any other long distance connectivity capability that's not cellular. And I say you get into a cost comparison. So solutions wise, if you're an agricultural provider, then the world of smart ag that has some soil moisture sensors and other such things, giving you a single data point delivered, once a day, twice a day, those kinds of things, you can move to a very, very different place of precision agriculture, where you're bringing together much more granularity in the data feeds that you're getting. You're maybe tracking moisture levels and crop readiness levels at an individual vine level, because vines are always, they're across hillsides and moisture levels and temperature levels change. And you get into forward planning, likely crop growth, because you're looking to maximize yield based on current conditions and forward temperature. So there's a range of different data points that come together that mean that we can now capture, we can now do some local processing on, and we can now get to a real kind of crop yield optimization with a level of improvement that's never previously been. In first generation, wasn't possible. And that's a really simple one where Wi-Fi HaLow can deliver a lot of value. Let me go to a second place. Smart meters, in many respects, smart metering is a zone that everyone knows really well. Certainly in the developed world, smart meters have been around and been installed for quite some time. As I was describing to someone a few days ago, I'm old enough to remember when I was a child in my mum and dad's house in the UK, when our electricity meter was read by a human being coming to the door once every 3 months and coming in and reading the meter and writing down what that was. And once every 90 days, that meter reading was taken, and that was how your electricity bill was paid. Beautifully, technology replaced that, and there was drive-by capture the usage data. And there's now more interactive meters where the industry talks about advanced meter infrastructure, AMI, advanced meter infrastructure, and they talk about that capturing data multiple times during the day on usage. But not so much of an issue for water or gas, but very much a change in the electricity meter world is that of how decentralized the grid is nowadays. A lot more rooftop solar in play than ever was previously. A lot more electric vehicles that are out there than ever before previously. A lot more batteries out there. A lot of high use electrical items such as air conditioning units. And what was historically a highly centralized grid, requiring knowledge on what usage was going to be in all properties at the perimeter, has become a highly decentralized virtual power plant where there's a need to know what's going to be produced and what's going to be used at a local level so that you can smooth your grid load usage at a house level and very much at a neighborhood level to eliminate the peaks and troughs that can take out transformers that can take out neighborhoods or cities. Here in Australia, we have real issues. So here in South Australia, we've had some real issues with at-scale power outages. The country, I think both Spain and Portugal have suffered in the last couple of years. Parts of California, I know, have had real problems with outages. So that industry is looking at what's going on with the current meter infrastructure, but they've devised a next generation and they call it AMI 2.0, because you would, Advanced Meter Infrastructure 2.0, where there's much higher volume of data exchanges at that grid edge. In Australia, the regulations are just being written. They haven't been published yet, but they're just being written that says that a single packet of data on usage in every property is going to need to be exchanged and uploaded every 5 seconds. So from once every 90 days when I was young to once every 5 seconds, so you can smooth the grid load and add intelligence to what's going on. So that grid edge intelligence is a great use case where, quite frankly, the current technology embedded in a smart meter can't deliver that unless it's cellular. And an awful lot of those smart meters are in places that cellular doesn't find easy to reach. So there's a really clear place where you need a sub-gigahertz radio frequency to get through concrete or to get into awkward places behind walls, to capture data every 5 seconds to add the intelligence on what to do to smooth the grid. So there's a clear first generation, second generation, different use case, new technology needed. It's quite exciting.
Awesome. It is exciting. It is exciting. And sorry, there are other scenarios I can think about. Anything remote, like mining, underground mining in particular, oil and gas. These are also things where you have a critical infrastructure where most of the time dealing with huge amount of data is important for saving money, right? Because you might be doing some mining exploration, and instead of having to bring back all your measuring data, in a hard drive to do the analytics and then come back on site and say, well, actually, let's measure a little bit there and change, the positioning. Maybe we could actually stream the data and have an instant response with analytics in a data center or whatever on the huge amount of data you can capture on site, right? So pretty fascinating set of scenarios. How is it working? How do you do that? You give us a first technical hint with sub-gigahertz, but how do you reach the distance and the high bandwidths altogether in Wi-Fi HaLow? What is specific? And people are technical, so you can give us, the rundown of the principles of Wi-Fi HaLow.
Yeah, so let me roll back a little minute in actual fact, because I think it's worth just giving the introduction to kind of where did HaLow come from. So 2016, which is actually when our business was founded, because the founders, Michael and Andy of our business, they are electrical engineers, and they were electrical engineers working for Broadcom, designing Wi-Fi chips, but realizing that those Wi-Fi chips were being used in broad and general ways. So they weren't being optimized for an IoT environment. They were being developed to use to deliver a broad range of use cases, which was kind of where Wi-Fi was at that point. But the IEEE team came up with the standard 802.11ah. And that's the Wi-Fi HaLow standard. That was developed in 2016, I should say. And that was where Michael and Andy, as their story goes, they said, this is our opportunity. Let's leave corporate. Let's set up. They took their wives down to the pub and said, how about we don't have any income for a couple of years? Are you going to back us? And we'll see what this can turn into. And then in the beautiful little small rural town of Picton, New South Wales, what is now Australia's largest semiconductor company was born. And Michael and Andy doubled down on Wi-Fi HaLow. We've got a pretty bold ambition, which is to be the number one provider globally of wireless chips in the world of IoT. But we're starting on Wi-Fi HaLow because it was the IEEE standard. The Wi-Fi Alliance took that and then said, right, this is the standard that we believe is the right standard. We're going to make sure we align from a cybersecurity and interoperability perspective for future IoT use cases. The one that does distance, that can get up to, the standard says, 8,000 devices connected to a single AP. Yep. Now, that's the standard. At the moment, we've got a couple of 2,000 devices connected. We haven't yet fully realized the potential of the standard, but I'm trying to give you a flavor of how different it was. So that's the origin and the heritage, and that was where Michael and Andy started the business, and we've been in development ever since. First generation chip came out a couple of years ago. Second generation chip came out early this year, and this is the one that's scaling for us. So it's a really important standard. The sub 1 gigahertz radio frequency, fundamentally just the way that radio wave moves, doesn't have as high an undulation, so a much narrower band. So it goes much further, penetrates walls better. You get about 2 or 3 times the penetration of concrete, or all wall types, but concrete, brick and wood, compared with 2.4 gigahertz, which is that and 5 are the traditional radio frequencies. 5 doesn't really go through a wall pretty well at all. 2.4, you're good for one wall, but you struggle to get through the second. So we can generally multiply, depending on an environment, we can generally multiply by 7 or 10 the distance covered, the throughput range that we can deliver for Wi-Fi HaLow relative to a 2.4 gigahertz environment, which opens up a whole pile of previously dark spaces.
Great. So now you can bring higher bandwidths to longer distances, enabling, and you mentioned that, edge AI scenarios, which is one of the many names that, IoT 2.0 whatnot. But edge AI, to me, I'm hearing about it a lot. I said early in 2025 that 2025 would be the year of edge AI, and there's lots of things moving. Do you see HaLow as one of the biggest facilitators or enablers of edge AI? And do you already see scenarios? And can you give us a couple of examples?
Yeah, I really do. So generally what solution providers, enterprise solution providers, which is the zone that we tend to spend most time being involved in, generally what those solution providers are looking for is they're looking for much higher volumes of data to pull together such that the processing, the AI processing and machine learning processing can deliver some meaningful outcomes as close to where that outcome needs to be delivered. There's kind of a proximity. You don't want all of your data to be going up to the cloud and back again. That's a lot of, in essence, wasted processing, wasted energy. So why would you? The most powerful cut through that we're seeing active in the market right now is the next generation use of video cameras. So video cameras we haven't touched on yet, but that's probably our biggest segment, biggest solution area that we're delivering on right now. And there's a distance play to that, there's a stability play to that, and there's a what you can do with that camera edge AI play. If I just think about the kind of the consumer environment, most people who are listening in onto this podcast will have video security cameras in their property. There will no doubt be the odd dark spot, and they've rarely got video cameras that are at the perimeter of the property. They tend to be within the property or on the edge of the house or the unit itself, rather than the bottom of the driveway or the fence of the back garden, those kinds of locations. So there's value in delivering bigger coverage range. You also want to make sure that you've got a really reliable signal. And all of our studies, field studies, and the work of our partners shows us that 2.4 gigahertz, which is how most cameras are connected, most wireless cameras are connected, can do a pretty good job. But the camera that's at the most distant or remote place shouts across the network, so it dominates the bandwidth. So it's really inefficient. Whereas if you can take a different protocol, make it a Wi-Fi HaLow camera, then you can get much more reliable coverage across your whole property. If you then think about the edge processing that you want, the last generation, or the current generation of cameras have been great at stimulating alerts when things happen. Logic being, there's a thief on your property, that person's been spotted, that unit, that body has been spotted, so let's send an alert. But there's kind of just alert fatigue out there because my camera's got, it's next door's dog, it's a cat, it's a bird, so people don't really activate that. But let's put some, you can call it AI vision, you can call it some local processing, but with the software and today's camera lenses in place, you can get really clear knowledge of what is a threat and what isn't a threat. Or you can kind of, in essence, treat your camera as a sensor, and you can set it up with triggers like, here's 5 known faces, people who live in this property. If any other faces are seen approaching this property after 8 p.m. at night, then I want a trigger, I want an alert. But these 5 faces I'm completely cool at. So there's ways in which you can set up local processing just within your property to do that kind of see, think, act, which is how I think about edge AI processing. You want to see something, you want to visualize something, you want to think about it, and then you want to take an action. And that action might be turn the lights on because it's one of the 5 known faces. Or it might be turn the lights on because it's not and send a trigger to the local police station because there's a threat. Or in agricultural terms, there's a number of projects that we've got in rural Australia where it's identify rogue species that are a threat to the local herds. So there's a way in which, with local processing, your camera can act as a next generation sensor to deliver, which combined with some tuned local processing can really help your business solution.
Yeah, definitely. And then you need that connectivity to deploy your models. And for the camera, when there's an alert, something detected, to communicate and eventually send a blurb. Like, you don't need to send a video all the time. You don't need to stream it. But once you detected something, this last 5 seconds, I'm going to send it up with the alert. And this is when you need that bandwidth that you can only get with Wi-Fi, basically, right? Compared to the other options out there.
It's exactly that. There's a tiny little example, but it was beautiful at the Things conference where you and I met recently. Vinka and his team do a great job, and that was the Amsterdam session. One of the LoRaWAN solution providers came and spoke to us about Wi-Fi HaLow and was interested in what we could do. And I kind of posed the question: if you had this extra data throughput, what would you want to do with it? And then we kind of looked, and I said, let me frame it a different way. What do your current set of clients want you to be able to do that you can't? And they said, well, we delivered, at scale sensor solutions. I went, great. What does your client want you to do? And he said, well, he doesn't just want to know that there's a problem. He'd like me to send an image or a short video of that problem. But I can't, because I haven't got the data throughput with a LoRaWAN pipe that I'm there for. I said, well, now you could. You can go to your existing customers, you can develop a premium solution, and you can charge more for, when there's a problem, I'll tell you about that problem. And, or you can move to an edge AI process, which is, I'll learn what action you want to take, and I'll take that action for you, and I'll trigger the local compute capability to take that action for you. So it really is a first gen, next gen way of thinking. And there's an evolutionary path from the current solutions to new things.
And we didn't talk much about that, and we don't have time today, but power consumption is also a big one, right? Because in that scenario you just described with this customer, they might want to use LoRaWAN for its low power use for sending regular things to I'm alive, everything is good. And then suddenly you say, okay, now I need to send more data. So I'm going to consume more data using the Wi-Fi chip versus just LoRa. But that's okay, because that's something I budgeted for, and it's my scenario. But then the rest of the time I optimize. And the multi-radio is something that, I'm seeing more and more with that intent of optimizing the resources used on the device itself. Most often on a premium version, because all of this hardware and, smart adds to the BOM. But customers will definitely pay for that extra functionality that very often is critical, is core to the product.
You're exactly right. And that's normally, if you follow the evolution of new technologies, exciting generation changing new technologies tend to come in at the premium end. They tend to come in at the higher value add solution range, which is where we would absolutely see the next generation of Wi-Fi HaLow solutions come through. But just touching on power, which is such an important part of anything in and around the world of IoT, because our team have been able to start with a clean sheet of paper and move their thinking on from previous architectures, the new generation of chip that we've put out, the team are incredibly proud of. The power transmitter delivers about 4 times the power efficiency of any other Wi-Fi chip that's out there. Because people say, what's your power usage of your chip? Which is a very standard question when you're doing some pretty low, when you're moving low packets of data, small packets of data in the world of LoRaWAN around. To which the answer is, depends what you're doing. Are you sending a video signal, or are you just sitting in latent mode? So what's really important for us is that the actual efficiency of all components as you're managing that transmission are as efficient as possible. So happy to pop a link in the thread at the bottom of this, and your team can see the white paper, because we've published that. The team are incredibly proud of that IP. We've published what we feel comfortable sharing, but to get under the surface of how we've fundamentally changed the architecture on power usage.
This is awesome. This is awesome, thoughtful and useful for our audience here, because they really have that in mind. The power usage is a limited resource. Basically on these IoT devices. So Andy, that was very insightful. Thanks a lot. If people want to get started, what's the call to action? Where do we send them?
Yeah, look, there's a few things that we've put together. There's a range of evaluation kits that we've put together, which are all available on Mouser.com. And that's probably the single easiest source around the world. There's a range of evaluation kits. The MM8108 you will normally see. That's the Morse Micro. 8108 is our new chip. So we put 2 generations of chip out into market. The 6108 was our first generation. The 8108 is our second generation. Other than it's smaller, uses less power and delivers more throughput, so faster. It's also a global SKU, which is really important, that the first generation wasn't, which means that it can work consistently in a regionally relevant way, because there's different regulations in different geographies all the way around the world, which can be really important for all of your readers, because I know you're all in different parts of the world. That isn't the case with any of the Wi-Fi HaLow chip, and wasn't the case with our first generation. But then there's kind of 4 devices I'll point the team to. There's an EKH01, which is the high power access point that people might want to try to get started with. There's an EKH05, which is an IoT dev board in essence, and that's pre-configured in a plug and play way, building on a Raspberry Pi, super simple stuff. But to enable people to start to work through an MVP of what their solution could be, if they want to try their video camera connected over a Wi-Fi HaLow link. There's an EKH19, which is a simple USB chip with an access point, so that in your unique environment you can put that chip into your device, move it at distance, and then connect it to the access point to see what kind of range you can get. Or the kind of the easiest simple one, if people just want to take advantage of the new technology in their own home environment, then the HaLow Link. HaLow Link 1 and HaLow Link 2 are our products, which can be both access points or stations. And if you buy 2 of those units have got both a Wi-Fi HaLow chip and a 2.4 gigahertz chip. So you can connect anything that you've got in your house that needs 2.4 at one end, or you can connect it to your router at one end. And then at the other end, be it your pool house or your office at the end of the garden or your workshop or wherever you are, if you want to have a HaLow bridge and then you want to connect your existing 2.4 gigahertz items at the other end, then 2 HaLow links will enable that to happen. The HaLow Link 1 is the US and Australian model, and HaLow Link 2 is coming out early part of next year.
Awesome, exciting. I'm already thinking about how I can eventually go sit down in the park next to my house and still access my Wi-Fi at home using one of these little tiny devices. I like that. Awesome, Andy.
Well, you get to a certain distance where you move out of Wi-Fi and you move to cellular, and that can be fine. It's a seamless existence. But for business solutions, you want to have a more cost-effective way of delivering that.
Awesome. And I guess people can find you as well on the Morse Micro website. Ask some questions if they have any, or directly to you on LinkedIn. They can find you.
Yeah. Feel free to come to me directly. We've also got a pretty active community. So if you go to community.morsemicro.com, there's a really vibrant community, a few hundred people there who are sharing their learnings and their experience. We post all the software that we possibly can onto our GitHub repository. Big fans of open source, really want to make sure that we can connect into all the operating systems that are out there. So look, it's a growing ecosystem. It's not as mature as we want it to be, but we're investing hard to grow the ecosystem.
We'll get there. There is a need. There is a solution. We'll figure it out. Beautiful. Awesome. Andy, thanks for your time. And I hope to see you soon on the show, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.